watching the award-winning GHS-TV, Germantown Community Television, your hometown news and information station.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show Crosstalk. I'm your host, Michelle Hayes. Each week during this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. Elvis Presley was one of the most influential and entertaining performers of our time. Mixing blues, gospel, and rock and roll, Elvis revolutionized the music industry and left an indelible mark on the fabric of American society. However, if it hadn't been for one man's shrewd eye for talent, we might have never heard the name Elvis Presley. On today's show, we will spend the next 30 minutes talking with Sam Phillips, the man credited for discovering the greatest music legend of our time. Welcome to the show, Mr. Phillips.
Michelle, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say I'm proud to be here. I was here last year at Germantown High School. I also was sitting out in the lobby before coming into the studio, and I'm so proud of the beautiful work that you do here. The color and the whole studio technique is so excellent that I just want the public to know that it is a fantastic program that you have out here, and it's always an honor for me to come out and share my thoughts with you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Well, on Elvis Presley, when you first met Elvis Presley, he was just out of high school driving a truck for Crown Electric Company, and he came into your studio, wanted to record 2 songs for his mother's birthday. What was your first impression of Elvis, not only his music, but his personality?
Elvis had, even in the very young age of 18 or 19, in the early years of his life, he still had a certain contact ability with people. Very shy now, and you would think that would be the opposite. But actually, I was more affected by seeing Elvis and feeling his presence as a shy young man wanting to do something in music than I was actually with his voice initially. But it proved to me that if Elvis Presley could get up enough courage to come in to make a record, quote unquote, for his mother's birthday, instead of coming in and saying, Mr. Phillips, I would like to have an audition. Elvis couldn't do that. He knew about this, but he worked his own plan to come in so I would hear him, and he would get to probably share a little thought with me and find out if there was a possibility of getting to make a record. Very interesting story. When Elvis came in, I was working on a B.B. King tape in the back control room. Marion Keisker was the only lady. She worked part-time, the only person I had working with me in the early days of Sun Records. So she looked at Elvis and, as she later said, kind of felt sorry for Elvis because she knew I was busy back there editing tapes, and that's kind of like doing this business here when you get focused on it. She knew I didn't want to be disturbed, but somehow or the other she decided to bring him on back, and when she opened the door and I saw Elvis, there was no way I just had to take off a little time and say, to heck with BB's editing right now. So that one little walkthrough was, you just never know when you're walking down the road of life which little path is going to lead you where. And it was just, to me, something that we made a connection. And in the entertainment business, which we're in right now, that is so very important. And people interest me so much. And Elvis was one of those, along with many other people that I auditioned. And so life is just one of the fantastic things that we can experience being around people, and especially people that have, quote unquote, the nerve, because an audition, as you well know, working in TV here, that's the toughest thing in the world to do, is to do an audition. But Elvis did an audition for me, paid for it, $4, $3 for one side, $2 for both sides of the little acetate 10-inch record. So that's how it really started, and I hope I kind of painted a picture of what this guy was all about, how we met, how we felt each other, and that had an awful lot to do with what we ultimately did months later and years later.
Well, what sort of characteristics, I know you've been auditioning people for a long time before Elvis.
Right.
When he came in, did he have a certain charisma about him, or was there something that you picked up? I mean, I know he was shy.
Very shy.
Mm-hmm. What was his voice like? Did you have to train him?
He had a beautiful voice. He sang My Happiness, which is an old ballad that a man and wife, John and Sandra Steele, had out years before, and he liked it, and it was kind of a semi, even though it wasn't a super hit, but it was kind of a religious feel to it in the melody. And then he was a fan, surprisingly, it surprised me, of the Ink Spots. And Bill Kenny was the lead singer in the Ink Spots. And I always loved his voice, Bill Kenny. The Ink Spots were 4 black people. Sometimes there were just 3 of them, but they made some of the most melodic music. And the Mills Brothers, they were the 2 black groups in pop music. And Elvis loved, so he sang for the other side of the record, That's When Your Heartaches Began. Then he had a little narration there, like Bill Kenny did with the Ink Spots. And honestly, his voice was totally untrained, and that, I think, is one of the things that made it so spontaneous, and it absolutely was beautiful. There's no question about it. Now, I did not think I could take Elvis and do ballads and get attention for him. I wanted to do something up-tempo. I wanted to get people like yourself back in the 50s, young people, so they could have their own type of music, because so many adults thought that young people ought to subscribe to the big dance bands and that sort of thing, which is fine if you liked it, and I liked it too, you know. But young people, I knew, I've always been in tune with young people. Even as old as I am now, I just think that they were looking for some individuality, and they found it in a lot of the music that we produced at Sun, and of course the leader was Elvis in that.
Well, we actually have some pictures of both of y'all working together. We'll take a look at those now, if you'll walk us through them. Yes. There's the first one.
That, if you can believe this, this is after I sold Elvis to RCA. And he had to come back to that little studio at 706 Union Avenue, right here in good old Memphis, Tennessee, and Germantown. And he would come back, and look, I'm pretending to show him how to play the guitar, okay?
Do you know how to play the guitar?
Huh?
Do you know how to play the guitar?
Oh, not really. Sure, I know how to play it a little bit, but not. But Elvis would tell you that he was not a great guitar player himself. He was a great rhythm guitar player, and he could hang in there. Now look, this is a very interesting picture. Elvis had nobody. He did not what we call back porch with anybody or shade tree with anybody. Elvis was a loner, as we have already described. But when he came in, I knew that he really needed somebody, and I didn't want a whole lot of people around Elvis because he was so shy. I felt like Scotty Moore was the perfect person to work with Elvis, because Scotty was a kind of a low-key guy, and he was a pretty darn good lead guitar player. And then Bill Black was the fun type of guy. He played an old upright, what we call doghouse bass, and slapped that darn thing. And Elvis, it was the instant perfect mix of people. Now, it could have gone the wrong way, but I'm being honest with you. I just came up with the right people, but I did think about it because I knew that Elvis had something that we had to get out of him. Mm-hmm. And since he didn't have a little group of his own, I had to find the right people. The wrong people would not have worked with Elvis Presley. I mean, we would not have gotten out of Elvis Presley what we got out of him had we not picked the right mix. And I don't mean just the instruments, I'm talking about the people.
And you did a fabulous job at doing that, and you put together the perfect group for
Michelle,
him.
I think I did too, and I appreciate that.
Well, we're going to take a short break now, but we'll come back and talk more about Elvis.
Thank you so much.
We have to take a short break now, but when we return, we'll continue talking with Sam Phillips about more memories of Elvis. Please stay with us.
We want to see our children succeed. But setting easy goals for our kids creates the toughest obstacle they'll ever face. Because succeeding in the real world isn't easy. Help the effort to raise standards in America's public schools. Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
Your hometown news and information station is the best in the nation. Among thousands of access facilities, Germantown Community Television has been named the top public, educational, and governmental access station by the Alliance for Community Media. In that same competition, 4 GHS TV shows have received first place honors. And there's more. The National Television Academy has recognized Wake Up Germantown with 3 National Student Television Awards of Excellence. Germantown Community Television, building on a tradition of excellence, working for you.
You're watching the award-winning GHS TV, Germantown Community Television, your hometown news and information station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Michelle Hayes. Today we are talking with Sam Phillips, the founder of Sun Studio and the man responsible for discovering music legend Elvis Presley. Hello, Mr. Phillips.
Howdy, Michelle.
Well, we're actually
Glad to see
talking
you.
now about Elvis becoming a star. What was your relationship like with Elvis when he sold his contract to RCA?
It remained very close. At that time, I was more like, there is 12 years and 3 days difference in our age. Of course, Elvis was older than me, you know that. No, wait a minute, you got, hey, no, it was a relationship that was really good, one that Elvis really needed, even after he was with RCA, because he was an only child, as people know, and he had a twin brother that died at birth, and I think he really believed in me because he'd heard B.B. King, Little Junior Parker, the Howlin' Wolf, and different ones I had recorded, and I think that he felt that he liked, and especially Mystery Train that I recorded by Junior Parker. And I think that when he left and went to RCA, he still felt that I was kind of maybe a semi-father figure, doing something that he had loved to do. And he was actually really concerned about it, and he and I talked about this, and Mr. and Mrs. Presley, Vernon and Gladys, talked about before I sold his contract to RCA, because I loved Elvis so much. In fact, I liked my artist. I didn't have a bad cat in the bushel, you know. But it was a very close relationship for what I think he thought my knowledge was, what he knew that I felt for him, and I believe that he certainly felt that way for me. I know every time he was in town and he heard that the session was going on. Now this is after he was with RCA. He was going to come by there and have fun with us.
So you remained close throughout all the years?
Oh, absolutely. I regret, Michelle, that we didn't get together more, even though we got together quite often. And he has been at my home so many nights, and he is a night person. And we'd get in the den in my house, play records. At that time I had a skill pool table in there and a pinball machine and loud music. And that's pretty hard to beat, you know. So I believe truly that Elvis, till the day he died, felt that I was something special in his life that came along. I really, truly believe that.
It's those special moments that really kept him going.
Right, absolutely.
How do you think that the fame affected Elvis as he got older?
He had, in so many ways, a real difficult time. He was still basically shy. It was so hard for him in certain ways to be able to, he just loved people so much, and he was not, I mean, he was not going out on the stage, whether there was 15,000 or 25 people, he was going to give you the same show. Now, you hear this probably about a lot of artists, but Elvis had a special complexity about him that he could not do a show and feel that he didn't deliver individually to every person and made contact with them.
The perfect performer.
Absolutely. He was, and his perfect performances were, in many instances, an imperfect thing, because he would do so many times the thing you didn't expect him to do. And that's one of the things that made his show so absolutely fundamentally enjoyable. But I have to say this, and I think it's good to say it in connection with that particular aspect of Elvis. A lot of people think Elvis was a person so serious and so moody and everything. Well, sure, Elvis had a good mind, but he was one of the funniest people. I mean, he was super funny. You around him and he would come up with some of the, but I mean, he didn't curse. He didn't even say nasty words.
And that didn't change over the years, his personality.
No, it did not. And his respect, Mr. and Mrs. and thank you and all that. But the guy was funny. And Elvis was just, to answer your question, to do the job that he wanted to do for the people, it was tough on him. Now, don't misunderstand me. He loved doing it. I mean, he wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, because it was something he loved, and his way of communicating with people. And he had to have people in his life. I mean, he really did. People meant, on a personal basis, and even people that never got to shake hands or be close to him physically, meant an awful lot to Elvis.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And we're going to come back and talk more about yourself personally and Elvis again. So stay with us.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll continue talking with Sam Phillips. Please stay with us.
Suddenly, without warning, a panic attack.
Oh no, it's happening again. What if I can't get out? My heart's racing. What if I have a heart attack? What if I lose control? I can't breathe. I feel dizzy. What if I faint right here? What if I go crazy? What if I can't get out? My heart's racing. What if I have a heart attack? What if I die?
Next.
When you have unexpected panic attacks and worry about having more, you may have panic disorder. Call for help.
What's it take to be a pro quarterback in the NFL? It takes effort. It takes determination. It takes practice, even after practice is over. And for Scott Mitchell, It takes one really brave mascot. Scott Mitchell, proving just how determined an Eagle Scout can be.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, Germantown Community Television, your hometown news and information station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm your host, Michelle Hayes. On today's show, we've been talking with Sam Phillips, a man who saw musical promise in a young singer named Elvis Presley. Welcome back, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Elvis still lives in the hearts of many people. He has a place with so many people for over 20 years after his death. What about Elvis do you think made him so endearing, so natural?
Michelle, it wasn't Elvis's good looks alone. It wasn't his unbelievable talents. It was that indefinable characteristic that so few people have. For me to explain that ability to make contact emotionally, spiritually, I would have to tell you that that was 90%, because there were so many good-looking actors and actresses and everything, and talented. There were fantastic singers of all kinds at the time Elvis was popular. But look at him today, after all these years. People that didn't even speak the language, the English language, all over the face of the globe. So we have to say he had the ability to make a certain specific spiritual contact with people. And to me, there is nothing more important than if we can relate one to another, a lot of times without a word being said. Just look at each other, feel each other. But there's something about Elvis, no matter what mood he was in, if he's having fun on the stage, if he was singing a serious song, Elvis made contact with people, and people responded to that. That, to me, is the greatest form of communication, and unfortunately, not enough of us have it. I mean, I just think it's a God-given talent that, without doubt, has to be the most powerful thing, a form of energy that a person can have.
How do you feel that you personally discovered the man that is the greatest entertainer of the 20th century? How do you personally feel about that?
I am so glad for this reason, not just the money. I made some money off of Elvis, and he made some money off of me, as it should be. But to give to the world a man this with the ability to communicate and bring joy to so many, and to see what he did to bring people closer together around the world. One man, a little guy from Tupelo, Mississippi, that really had very little material things in life. He didn't have anything but a mama and a daddy, so to speak, in the immediate family. He lost Jesse Garon, his twin brother, at birth. And to see this guy bring so much joy and happiness to people, I feel so honored that I was blessed and privileged to do that. God gave me a talent too, and I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of a synergistic type of thing that revolutionized how the world feels about each other to a great extent.
It wasn't just Elvis Presley you got and brought to the world to hear sing. We also have some pictures of the other people that you've touched. We'll take a look at those now.
All right. Okay, starting from the left, That is Johnny Cash. I can barely see him, but he's there with his guitar, and this was done in 1985 here in Memphis. We had, they called, I believe it was the 55 reunion. And next to him is Roy Orbison, who I first recorded Roy, and Roy went on to have some humongous hits. Sitting in front of Roy on the piano stool is Jerry Lee Lewis, the Killer. And next to him is on the right of Roy, on the left of Roy, to the right of the film there, of the screen there, is Carl Perkins from Jackson, Tennessee, that had a huge record right after I sold Elvis's contract to RCA. And really, I guess I wouldn't have sold it if I hadn't known that I had Blue Suede Shoes in the can, so to speak, recorded by Carl. And luckily, it became a humongous hit, and the money I got from selling Elvis to RCA helped me finance distribution and everything across the nation. Then over to the right, you saw Mr. Phillips, the good-looking one in the picture. How about that?
Well, I believe
they came to the studio and got together, and it was just a fantastic night. And incidentally, that was made, and Ricky Nelson was there, and he was killed just a few days after that. And Roy didn't live, Roy Orbison unfortunately didn't live. I think he lived about a year after that. But Ricky came to Memphis to be in that party that night when we all got together. Oh, there, oh, I've got to see that. I'm sorry, is it too late?
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate sharing your times with Elvis. It's always fascinating to hear a first-hand account.
Michelle, I can't tell you how much I enjoy this, and young people to me are everything. I mean, and I'm just so proud of your facilities and what all of you are learning and bringing to the people of this whole area.
Well, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
I would like to thank Sam Phillips for being my guest today and for sharing the memories and times he spent with Elvis. Pop culture, the city of Memphis, and the music industry all owe a great debt of gratitude to Sam Phillips for his talent and his vision. Without a doubt, Sam Phillips has become a true musical legend in his own right. I'm Michelle Hayes, and on behalf of all of us here at Germantown Community Television, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again next week.